What if I told you that the world's greatest investor bases his multi-billion-dollar strategy on principles that were written in the Bible over 2,000 years ago? This is not a mere theory or a simple coincidence. It is a hidden architecture, a divine blueprint for prosperity that has been hiding in plain sight all along. In his renowned 2022 letter to shareholders, a document meticulously dissected by every analyst on Wall Street, Warren Buffett didn't just share financial results. He left a trail of crumbs, subtle clues that point directly to a spiritual code for the multiplication of true wealth. A code that transcends markets, ignores fleeting and volatile trends, and is deeply rooted in an immutable, universal law. The very experts who praise his genius completely miss the true source of his power, for they are looking at the numbers but failing to see the sacred geometry that lies just beneath the surface. Most people have been led to believe that wealth is built through impossibly complex strategies, frantic and stressful trading, and access to privileged insider information. They are conditioned to watch the flickering numbers on a screen, to react to every breaking headline with an impulse of either fear or greed. This is the great deception of the modern financial world, a chaotic casino designed to enrich the house. But the masters, the true architects of lasting fortunes, operate from an entirely different plane of understanding. They know that the laws of abundance were not invented on Wall Street. They were written into the very fabric of creation itself. What Buffett revealed, for those with the wisdom to perceive it, is that these timeless spiritual laws are the unshakable bedrock of his entire empire. He has provided a key, not to a vault of gold, but to a state of mind that magnetizes prosperity effortlessly and continuously. Stay with me on this journey, and I will hand you the very key to decipher this profound code. We will walk together through the pages of his letter and the verses of ancient scripture, not as academics or scholars, but as dedicated seekers of truth. You will learn to see your own financial life not as a constant struggle against the forces of scarcity, but as a fertile field, patiently awaiting the planting of the right seeds. This is not another video filled with fleeting investment tips. This is an initiation into a new frequency of wealth, a frequency founded on patience, intrinsic value, and divine law. By the end of our time together, you will grasp the powerful connection between the parables of the ancients and the portfolio of a billionaire, and you will be fully equipped to apply this sacred knowledge to transform your life, starting today. You look at the statement. The numbers on the page seem to mock the years of labor etched into your hands and the sacrifices carved into your memory. Decades of waking before the sun, of putting the needs of others before your own, of carefully setting aside a portion of every paycheck, believing in the promise of a secure future. You did everything you were told to do. You followed the well-trodden path, the one praised as prudent and wise. Yet the result staring back at you feels inadequate. It's a quiet disappointment, a subtle ache that settles deep within your spirit. It's the feeling of having run a marathon, only to find the finish line has been moved further away, leaving you with a profound sense of exhaustion and a lingering question: was it all enough? This is not just about money. It's about the value of your life's effort. Imagine the sensation of that knot tightening in your stomach when you think about the years ahead. You listen to the financial gurus on television. You read the books. You dutifully diversified your portfolio just as they instructed. You even bought into the stocks that were hailed as the next big thing. But the profound peace you were promised, that unshakable certainty that your future and the future of your family are secure, feels like a phantom. It remains perpetually just out of reach, a fleeting shadow that you can see but never quite grasp. This constant state of low-grade anxiety is the price you've paid for following a map that leads not to a promised land of abundance, but to a barren landscape of constant worry and doubt, a place where security always seems to be just over the next hill. You know that feeling of running on a treadmill, don't you? The sensation of immense effort, of pouring sweat and energy into a journey, only to look around and realize you haven't actually moved forward at all. Your legs are tired, your breath is short, but your position remains unchanged. This is the precise experience of millions who follow the conventional financial wisdom. They are trapped in a cycle of effort without meaningful progress, forever chasing a horizon that recedes as they advance. But I want you to understand something crucial. This frustration you feel is not a sign of your failure. It is a divine signal. It is your soul's way of telling you that you have been given the wrong map for the journey you are meant to take. It's that silent, creeping thought that visits in the dead of night, the one that asks, what if I haven't done enough? It's the weight on your chest when you see your children or grandchildren and wonder if you will be able to provide for them the way you always dreamed, to be a source of support and not a burden. This is not just financial stress. It is a spiritual wound. It is the pain of a promise unfulfilled, the fear that the legacy you hope to build is resting on a foundation of sand, vulnerable to the shifting tides of the market and the unpredictable winds of the economy. This fear disconnects you from your power, keeping your spirit trapped in a cage of what-ifs and if-onlys, robbing you of the peace that is your birthright. Have you ever felt like you're standing on the outside of a secret looking in? You see others who seem to navigate the world of wealth with an effortless grace, as if they were given a different rule book. Meanwhile, you are left to decipher a language that feels intentionally confusing, filled with jargon and complexity, designed to keep you dependent and uncertain. You followed their advice, you paid their fees, you trusted their systems. Yet the gap between where you are and where you need to be seems to grow wider with each passing year. This feeling of being perpetually one step behind is a deliberate design of a system that thrives on your confusion. It is a carefully constructed illusion meant to obscure a simpler, more powerful truth about how abundance truly flows into our lives. The desire to leave a legacy is one of the soul's deepest callings. It is the innate human need to plant trees whose shade you may never sit in, to ensure that the lives of those who come after you are better, easier, and more secure. The pain you feel is not just about securing your own retirement. It's about the fear of failing in this sacred duty. It is the dread of leaving behind a legacy of struggle instead of a legacy of strength. This is the true source of the anxiety, the thought that your life's work might not be enough to create a lasting ripple of prosperity for your lineage. It's the fear that the story of your financial life will be one of almost and not quite, rather than one of abundant provision and generational blessing. This profound disillusionment is the natural result of placing your faith in an incomplete system. Wall Street has sold you the idea that the market is a complex beast that only its high priests can tame, a chaotic casino where you must place your bets and hope for the best. They created a world of frantic charts, speculative gambles, and short-term thinking that generates immense profits for them. This entire paradigm is built on a foundation of fear and greed, emotions that operate at the lowest possible frequency. It disconnects you from the true source of all abundance, which is not found in market predictions or complex algorithms, but in the timeless, immutable, and divine law of sowing and reaping. It is a law of nature, a law of God. So, let this moment be a validation of everything you have been feeling. That sense of frustration, that quiet disappointment, that feeling of being stuck. It is real and it is justified. But it is not your destiny. It is not a judgment on your worth or your effort. It is simply the consequence of planting good seeds in barren soil. You have been diligently sowing your hard-earned resources into a system that was never designed to produce the harvest you truly desire for your life. Finally, you understand. Someone sees the struggle, acknowledges the effort, and is ready to show you that there is another way. A path not of struggle, but of alignment. A path not of gambling, but of cultivation. A path back to the source. For generations, they have sold you the idea that the financial market is an impossibly complex machine, a grand and intricate casino that only they, the high priests of finance, can truly understand. They have crafted a narrative of chaos and volatility, a world where you must be constantly vigilant, reacting to every tremor, every news report, every analyst's whisper. This narrative serves a single purpose: to make you believe that you are powerless without their guidance, that you must hand over your hard-earned capital in exchange for their supposed expertise. But this is a carefully constructed illusion, a grand deception that serves only to generate endless commissions and management fees. The truth is, you were not born to be a gambler in their casino. You were created to be a steward of a fertile garden, and you have been trying to plant your seeds on their roulette table. This mindset, this relentless focus on the short term, on the speculative gain, on the frantic hunt for the next hot stock, is the true enemy of your peace and prosperity. It is a philosophy that is fundamentally rooted in the frequencies of fear and anxiety. It forces your mind into a perpetual state of reaction, robbing you of your power to consciously create. Every market dip sends a jolt of panic through your nervous system, and every rally tempts you with the poison of greed. This emotional roller coaster is not a byproduct of investing. It is the very engine of the system they have built. It is designed to keep you distracted and disconnected from the one true source of all abundance, which is the calm, unwavering, and immutable law of sowing and reaping. True wealth is never found in chaos. It is born from divine order. Therefore, let us draw a clear line in the sand. On one side, there is the path of effort, the path they taught you. It is a path of struggle, of trying to outsmart a system designed against you, of pouring your energy into a bottomless pit of complexity and stress. On the other side, there is the path of alignment. This path is not about working harder, but about understanding more deeply. It is about aligning your actions with the universal laws that govern growth and harvest, laws that have existed since the dawn of time. The wisdom of Wall Street is not wrong, it is simply dangerously incomplete. It shows you the mechanics of the machine, but hides the spirit that gives it life. It is time to turn away from the noise of the machine and tune into the wisdom of the Creator. The solution to this profound sense of frustration has always been within your reach, resting silently on a nightstand or a bookshelf, often revered but rarely consulted for the practical matters of wealth. It is found within the pages of a book that many hold sacred yet few understand as a literal guide to financial abundance, the Holy Bible. This is not a metaphor. Locked within its ancient verses and timeless parables are the precise, immutable laws of prosperity that govern the universe. For centuries, this knowledge has been veiled, interpreted only as spiritual guidance, while its powerful practical application for building lasting wealth has remained a secret for all but a select few. The key to unlocking your financial destiny was never hidden in a complex financial report from Wall Street. It has been waiting patiently for you in the sacred text that is the very foundation of Western civilization. Warren Buffett, whether he acknowledges it consciously or is simply guided by an intuitive alignment with universal truth, has become the modern translator of this ancient code. In his 2022 letter, he did not speak the frantic language of a speculator. He spoke the calm, grounded language of a farmer, a sower of seeds. Read his words carefully. He does not talk about betting on market trends or speculating on stock prices. He speaks of owning productive businesses. He emphasizes holding these assets forever. This is not the vocabulary of a Wall Street gambler. This is the language of a sower, a man who understands that you do not plant a seed and dig it up the next day to check its progress. He understands that true wealth grows like an oak tree, not a weed. His letter is the Rosetta Stone that allows us to translate the divine principles into modern financial action. Consider this moment a turning point, an awakening. The connection between the wisdom of Proverbs and the portfolio of Berkshire Hathaway is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of law. We are about to embark on a journey of decoding, of pulling back the curtain to reveal how the most powerful investor of our time has built an empire upon the very same principles that King Solomon used to build his legendary kingdom. We will treat these insights not as mere information, but as sacred artifacts, as lost keys that have now been found. The frustration and anxiety you have felt are the result of a disconnection from these foundational truths. Now we will reconnect you to the source. We will rebuild your financial house upon the unshakable rock of divine law, not the shifting sands of market speculation. Let us begin the great work of decoding. We will start with the first and perhaps most violated law of prosperity, the principle of patience. In the sacred book of Ecclesiastes, the wise King Solomon gives us a profound command, a spiritual investment directive of the highest order. He writes in chapter 11, verse 1, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days." This is not a call for blind or foolish charity. This is the very essence of a divine investment philosophy. It is an instruction to release your resources, your seeds of intention and capital, into the vast flowing current of the universe with absolute faith. It is a command to sow with a spirit of trust, not with the anxious grip of control, understanding that the return is guaranteed not by your constant meddling, but by the immutable law of the divine cycle itself. The hidden meaning here is a radical departure from the mindset of the modern world, which demands instant results and constant verification. To cast your bread upon the waters is to let go of the need to see the seed sprout tomorrow. It is a profound act of surrendering your timeline to a higher, more intelligent one. The secret is that the many days are not a period of passive waiting, but an active incubation where the forces of creation are at work, compounding your initial offering in ways you cannot possibly micromanage. This verse is a divine reassurance that the universe is not a void, but a responsive medium. What you release with faith and good intention will always return to you, multiplied and transformed, carried back to your shores on a tide of abundance you did not have to create, only trust. Now listen to the echo of this ancient wisdom in the words of Warren Buffett. When asked about his preferred holding period for a stock, he famously replied, "Forever." Wall Street analysts interpret this as a quaint exaggeration, a simple metaphor for long-term thinking. But they miss the sacred truth. Buffett is not merely being patient in the conventional sense, he is operating under the exact same spiritual law as Solomon. He is casting his capital into the flowing waters of great productive businesses. He is not trying to predict the short-term currents or the daily ripples of the market. He is placing his faith in the unstoppable, long-term tide of human ingenuity and economic progress, knowing with absolute certainty that after many days or many years, his bread will return to him, multiplied 1,000-fold. This reveals the central metaphor. The investor must be a patient sower, not an anxious gambler. Imagine a master farmer planting an acorn. He does not return the next morning with a shovel, frantically digging it up to see if roots have sprouted. He does not curse the sky if a week passes without a visible stem. He prepares the soil, he plants the seed, and he trusts the process. He knows the acorn holds the divine blueprint of a mighty oak tree within it, and that its growth is governed by seasons and cycles that are beyond his control. His job is not to force the growth, but to nurture the conditions for it. He has unwavering faith in the law of the harvest. This sacred patience, this profound trust in the unseen process, is the very essence of true investment mastery. The average person, conditioned by the frantic energy of the financial media, behaves like a nervous amateur gardener. They plant their seed and immediately begin to worry. They check on it constantly, pulling it out of the ground to measure its progress, and in doing so they sever the delicate roots before they can ever take hold. They are governed by fear and the need for instant gratification. Their focus is on the daily weather report of the stock market, the fleeting storms of volatility, and the brief sunshine of rallies. The master sower, the Buffett-minded investor, ignores the daily weather. He focuses his entire energy on one thing, ensuring he has planted a superior seed in the most fertile soil he can find. He then lets the divine law of nature take its course, confident in the eventual harvest. Therefore, the first mental action you must take is to make a solemn decree. Declare this to yourself right now with the full conviction of your soul. My mind is a fertile garden, not a volatile stock market. You must actively reprogram your consciousness to reject the addiction to daily price fluctuations. This is a sacred act of reclaiming your mental sovereignty. Your mind's primary function in this process is to be the rich, stable, and patient soil in which your investments can grow undisturbed. You must cultivate a mental environment of peace and long-term vision, starving the weeds of anxiety and fear that the financial news tries to plant there every single day. This decree is your shield, protecting the sacred ground where your future oak tree is taking root. This decree is not a one-time affirmation. It is the beginning of a new spiritual discipline. Cultivating this kind of patience is like strengthening a muscle. It requires active practice. It is the practice of choosing faith over fear every time you feel the urge to react to market noise. It is the conscious choice to read a book about the underlying business you own instead of watching the meaningless squiggles on a stock chart. This is not passive waiting. It is an active, powerful trust in the process you have initiated. It is the profound peace that comes from knowing you have done your work by planting well, and now you are allowing the divine architect to do his work, building your wealth with the infallible tools of time and compounding. Herein lies the financial miracle that the impatient can never access, the law of compound interest. But do not see this as a cold mathematical formula. Understand it for what it truly is, the tangible, financial manifestation of the spiritual law of the harvest. It is God's own multiplication system. It is the universe's way of rewarding patience and faith. When you plant a seed, it becomes a tree that produces fruit, and within that fruit are more seeds which can be planted to create more trees. This is compounding. It is an exponential creative force. By aligning yourself with the principle of long-term patience, you are harnessing this divine creative power in your financial life, allowing a small seed of capital to grow into a forest of abundance over time. Contrast this divine process with the path of the speculator. The speculator is fundamentally at odds with natural law. He seeks to bypass the season of growth. He is like an alchemist trying to turn lead into gold overnight, always searching for a shortcut, a trick, a way to cheat the system. But the laws of creation cannot be cheated. His attempts to force a quick profit, to harvest before the crop is ripe, inevitably lead to bitter fruit or a barren field. He lives in a state of constant stress, chasing fleeting opportunities, and is ultimately left with nothing of substance. He violates the sacred rhythm of sowing and reaping, and therefore can never experience the peace and certainty of the true harvest that awaits the patient. So let us seal this first principle in your heart. The critical shift is to see every dollar you invest not as a bet in a casino, but as a sacred seed planted for a future legacy. Your task is to choose the highest quality seeds, solid, productive businesses, and plant them in the fertile soil of a long-term time horizon. Then, you must entrust their growth to the divine timing of the universe, just as Warren Buffett entrusts his billions to the unstoppable compounding power of great American enterprises. You are not a gambler. You are a cultivator. You are not a speculator. You are a sower. Embrace the divine virtue of patience, and you will align yourself with the very force that grows acorns into oaks. Now we move to the second pillar of this sacred code, the principle of intrinsic value. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus shares the powerful parable of the barren fig tree. A man comes to his tree seeking fruit for 3 years and finds none. He commands it to be cut down, asking, "Why should it use up the ground?" This is not just a lesson in horticulture. It is a profound spiritual and financial teaching. Jesus is revealing a universal truth. An asset, a person, or a business is ultimately judged not by its appearance, its leaves, or its reputation, but by the tangible fruit it produces. The universe itself operates on this principle. It does not reward empty promises or beautiful foliage. It rewards actual, measurable, productive output. The secret decoding of this parable reveals the fundamental flaw of modern financial thinking. The market, with its endless commentary and analysis, is utterly obsessed with the leaves. It is mesmerized by the brand name, the charismatic CEO, the exciting story, the daily stock price. These are all just leaves, the outward appearance. But God and the truly wise investor look past the foliage. They are searching for the fruit. What is the fruit of a business? It is the cold, hard cash it generates. It is the profit that can be reinvested to grow the business or return to the owners. It is the real, tangible, intrinsic value that the enterprise produces for society and for its shareholders. The price is a fleeting opinion. The fruit is an eternal truth. This is precisely the principle that forms the bedrock of Warren Buffett's empire. Notice his unwavering focus on what he calls productive assets. He does not buy speculations. He buys tangible things that gush cash. He buys railroads, power plants, insurance companies, and sees candies. He buys entire orchards that produce fruit. He explicitly contrasts these with non-productive assets like gold or cryptocurrencies. He sees these as assets that have no fruit. They are like a beautiful but barren fig tree. Their value is derived only from the hope that someone else will pay more for them tomorrow. Buffett ignores the leaves of market sentiment and focuses solely on the predictable, growing, and delicious fruit of cash flow. He is not buying stocks, he is buying businesses. To make this tangible, embrace this powerful metaphor. The average market participant is a collector of beautiful paintings of apples. They buy a canvas with a stunning depiction of an apple, not because they can eat it, but because they hope art critics will praise it and its market price will appreciate. The wise Sower, the Buffett-minded investor, ignores the paintings entirely. He walks past the art gallery and buys the entire apple orchard. He doesn't care what the art critics say. He cares about the thousands of real, edible apples the orchard produces, season after season. His wealth is not based on fleeting opinions or fashionable trends. It is rooted in the real, life-sustaining value of the fruit itself. He knows that opinions change, but the value of a good harvest is eternal. Let us expand this metaphor to fully grasp its power. The owner of the apple orchard does not panic if a newspaper headline declares that pears are the new popular fruit. He is not swayed by the changing whims of the crowd. He knows that his trees are healthy, his soil is fertile, and the demand for real, nutritious food is permanent. His source of wealth is tangible and resilient. The owner of the apple painting, however, lives in a state of constant, low-grade terror. His entire net worth is tied to the subjective opinions of others. He is perpetually anxious, hoping that his painting remains in vogue. This is the difference between investing in substance and speculating on shadows. It is the difference between owning the source of value and owning a mere symbol of it. This brings us to your second great mental decree. You must declare with the authority of a sovereign creator, "I align my frequency to perceive true value, not fleeting price." This is an act of tuning your inner perception, like tuning a radio to a specific station. You must intentionally train your mind to look past the noisy, distracting static of the daily stock ticker. You must learn to see the business behind the stock symbol. This requires a shift in your research and your focus. It means spending less time on price charts and more time understanding how a company actually produces its fruit. It is about becoming a connoisseur of orchards, not a critic of paintings. To deepen this practice, you must adopt a sacred question that becomes the gateway to every investment decision. Before you commit a single dollar of your hard-earned capital, you must pause, quiet your mind, and ask this one powerful question. Does this asset produce real and consistent fruit? This simple question acts as a divine filter. It immediately cuts through the fog of market hype, complex jargon, and emotional temptation. It forces you to connect with the underlying substance of the investment. Answering this question honestly will protect you from almost every financial trap and illusion. It aligns your decision-making process with the creative, productive force of the universe, rather than the chaotic, speculative energy of the casino. Embracing this principle of intrinsic value is the key to your financial peace. When you know that you own a piece of a wonderful fruit-producing orchard, you are liberated from the daily fear that plagues the speculator. A market crash becomes nothing more than a passing storm. It may damage a few branches, but you know with deep certainty that the strong, healthy roots of the tree are secure. You know the sun will shine again, and the tree will continue to bear fruit. The owner of the painting, however, is shattered by the storm of a market crash, as the perceived value of his asset can evaporate overnight. True ownership of productive assets is the antidote to financial anxiety. Your peace comes from knowing you own the substance, not the shadow. There is a profound spiritual dimension to this approach. Seeking out intrinsic value is an act of aligning your financial life with truth and integrity. The world of speculation is a world of illusions, of narratives, of convincing someone that something is worth more than it truly is. It is a world of form over substance. By focusing on the real fruit, the real cash flow, the real service a business provides to humanity, you are participating in a system of truth. You are rewarding substance, not hype. You are building your financial future on a foundation of reality, not perception. This is an act of spiritual and financial wholeness, where your investments reflect a commitment to that which is real, true, and productive. Therefore, let this second principle transform your entire perspective. The mental shift is to evolve from a mere stock picker into a discerning business analyst, a connoisseur of fruit-bearing trees. Your task is to train your perception with divine assistance to recognize and acquire pieces of businesses that generate tangible, growing, real-world value. You must learn to ignore the noisy auctions for apple paintings and quietly, patiently acquire shares in the most productive orchards you can find. This is how Warren Buffett built his fortress of wealth, and it is the second key that unlocks the door to your own lasting prosperity. It is the path of substance, the path of truth, the path of peace. Finally, we arrive at the third and final pillar of this holy trinity of prosperity, the principle of prudence, specifically in avoiding the bondage of debt. The book of Proverbs, a wellspring of practical divine wisdom, states with chilling clarity in chapter 22, verse 7, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender." Do not read this as a mere societal observation. Understand it as a divine law, as absolute and unforgiving as the law of gravity. It is a spiritual equation of cause and effect. The act of borrowing, particularly for speculation or consumption, is an act of willingly placing chains upon yourself. It is the voluntary surrender of your freedom, your autonomy, and your financial sovereignty. The hidden secret that the modern financial system works tirelessly to conceal is that debt is not just a financial instrument. It is a form of spiritual bondage. When you are in debt, you are no longer the master of your own destiny. Your time, your energy, and your life's work are no longer fully your own. A portion of them is perpetually claimed by your lender. You are forced to make decisions not from a place of inspiration and purpose, but from a place of obligation and pressure. The lender's agenda silently dictates your choices. This servitude robs you of the peace and clarity required to hear the divine guidance for your life. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot fully serve your divine purpose while also serving the demands of a lender. Observe how this ancient law is personified in the actions of Warren Buffett. His legendary aversion to using debt and leverage for investment purposes is not just a conservative financial strategy. It is a profound spiritual stance. He has called borrowed money a lethal weapon that can turn minor miscalculations into catastrophic failures. The massive multi-billion-dollar fortress of cash that Berkshire Hathaway maintains is more than just a defensive measure. It is a powerful declaration of financial sovereignty. It is a statement that he will not be a slave to any bank or any market turn. He refuses to put the empire he has built at the mercy of a lender. He operates from a position of absolute freedom and power, a position that is only possible on a foundation of prudence. Let us use the metaphor of building a house. The speculator, seduced by the siren song of getting rich quick, uses debt as his primary building material. He builds his financial house on the shifting sands of a loan, hoping to construct it rapidly and sell it before the tide of rising interest rates or a market downturn comes crashing in. His foundation is weak, vulnerable, and entirely dependent on factors outside of his control. The prudent builder, the wise sower, operates differently. He patiently gathers his own stones, his own capital, no matter how long it takes. He then carefully, meticulously builds his financial house upon the solid, unshakable rock of his own resources. The house built on the sand of debt may indeed go up faster. For a season, it may look impressive, even more so than the prudently built house. But this is an illusion of prosperity. The moment the first storm arrives, a recession, a job loss, a health crisis, the foundation is washed away and the house collapses into ruin, leaving the builder not only homeless, but also enslaved to the lender for the wreckage. The house built on the rock of prudence, however, stands firm against every storm. It is a true sanctuary, a source of genuine security, and it becomes a lasting legacy that can be passed down through generations. Its strength is not an illusion, it is real, for it was built upon the divine principle of sovereignty. This leads us to your third and most empowering mental decree. You must claim your freedom by declaring with righteous conviction, "My financial freedom is my divine purpose. I build my house upon the rock of prudence." This is a radical act of rebellion against the prevailing culture that normalizes and even glorifies debt. It is a conscious rejection of the seductive, but ultimately destructive belief that debt is a necessary tool for wealth creation. You are choosing the path of the sovereign, the path of the master, not the path of the servant. This decree realigns your energy, shifting it from the frequency of obligation to the frequency of freedom and autonomous creation. To activate this decree, you must begin the deep work of reprogramming the limiting belief that you need money to make money and therefore must borrow to get ahead. This is one of the most pervasive lies of the scarcity mindset. You must replace it with the empowering truth of the sower. You start with the seeds you have, no matter how small. You plant them in good soil, and you allow the divine law of compounding to work its miracles on a debt-free foundation. This path may seem slower at the start, but it is the only path that leads to true, unshakable wealth. It is the path of organic growth, not artificial leverage. It is the path of strength, not of fragility. Understand this critical truth. Prudence is the mother of power. Warren Buffett's legendary cash hoard is not idle, unproductive money as his critics sometimes claim. It is power in its purest form. It is potential energy waiting to be deployed. It is the dry powder that allows him to act with decisive force when opportunities arise. When the storms of a market crash force the leveraged speculators to sell their magnificent assets for pennies on the dollar, the prudent man, the one free from the chains of debt, becomes the buyer. He becomes the master of the game. He does not fear crises. He welcomes them as opportunities to acquire wonderful orchards at discounted prices from the builders who built their houses on sand. Beyond the strategic advantage, consider the profound spiritual peace that accompanies a debt-free existence. It is the quiet, calm confidence of the sovereign soul. It is the freedom to wake up each morning knowing that your life's energy is your own, to be directed as your spirit guides you, not as your loan statement dictates. This inner peace is the fertile ground from which the best decisions are made. It allows you to think clearly, to see long-term, and to operate from a place of purpose, not desperation. This peace, this sovereignty of spirit, is the true wealth that money cannot buy and that debt will always destroy. It is the ultimate return on an investment in prudence. These three foundational principles, divine patience, intrinsic value, and sovereign prudence, are not a list of separate tactics. They are a holy trinity of prosperity. They are an interconnected, unified code for building wealth that is not just abundant but also resilient, peaceful, and righteous. Patience gives you the time for value to flourish. A focus on value ensures your patience is rewarded, and prudence provides the unshakable foundation that allows you to practice both patience and value investing through all of life's storms. Together, they create a fortress of financial well-being, a fortress built not upon the shifting theories of man, but upon the eternal, immutable laws of God. Imagine yourself a few years from now, waking with the gentle morning light, but this time, something is profoundly different. There is no immediate reflexive urge to reach for your phone, no jolt of anxiety compelling you to check the overnight market news from across the world. Instead, you feel a deep, abiding calm that settles into your very bones. It is the quiet, powerful peace of the master sower, who knows his fields are fertile, his seeds are of the highest quality, and his harvest is governed not by the chaotic whims of speculators, but by the infallible divine laws of creation. You feel a sense of serene partnership with the forces of abundance, a quiet confidence that your wealth is growing steadily, silently, and securely, just as an oak tree reaches for the heavens without strain or panic. This is your new reality. This profound inner peace is the first and most precious fruit of your transformation. The constant, noisy chatter of financial news, which once occupied so much of your mental space, has faded into a distant, irrelevant hum. You no longer feel the pull of its fear or the temptation of its greed. Your mind, once a battlefield of anxiety and doubt, has become a tranquil sanctuary, a sacred garden where thoughts of prosperity, security, and gratitude are cultivated. You have disconnected from the frantic frequency of the casino and tuned your entire being to the harmonious rhythm of the harvest. You now understand that your emotional state is the very soil in which your financial reality grows, and you guard its peace with the devotion of a temple keeper. Picture your legacy, no longer a source of anxious concern, but a living, breathing testament to this sacred wisdom. Your net worth is not just a number on a statement, it is a mighty oak tree, its roots growing deeper and stronger with each passing season. It stands as a bastion of strength and security, providing shade and shelter for you, for your children, and for your children's children. You have become a true patriarch or matriarch of prosperity, passing down not just financial assets, but a far more valuable inheritance, the divine blueprint for creating a life of abundance, peace, and freedom. You have broken the generational chains of scarcity and replaced them with a legacy of sovereign, cultivated wealth that will bless your family for 100 years to come. Do not for one moment believe that this vision is a distant fantasy or a hopeful dream reserved for a chosen few. This state of being, this life of serene and ever-growing abundance, is your spiritual birthright. It is the reality you were designed to inhabit. The frustration and struggle you have endured were never a reflection of your worth or your potential. They were simply the result of playing by the wrong set of rules, of trying to sow your seeds in a concrete jungle. The universe is a system of infinite abundance, governed by perfect laws. By aligning your mind and your actions with these laws, you're not chasing a miracle. You are simply coming home to the way things were always meant to be. The great change, the powerful transformation you seek, does not begin when you open a new brokerage account or buy a different investment. It does not start with an external action at all. It begins in the silent, sacred chambers of your own mind, in this very moment. The choice is yours right now. You can choose to continue listening to the noisy, fearful voices of the casino, or you can choose to claim your power as a master sower. It is a simple, profound internal decision to shift your identity from that of a worried gambler to that of a wise and patient cultivator. This decision, made with conviction in the quiet of your own soul, is the single most powerful investment you will ever make. Therefore, I call you not to a new financial strategy, but to a new spiritual practice. For the rest of this day, turn away from the noise of the world. Find a quiet space and meditate upon these truths. Meditate on the image of yourself as the patient sower, the discerning owner of fruitful orchards, the prudent builder whose house is founded upon a rock. Feel the emotions of this new reality. Feel the peace. Feel the security. Feel the quiet confidence. Assume the power that has always been yours, the divine authority to consciously create your financial destiny in alignment with the unwavering laws of God. This is not just a mental exercise, it is an act of sacred activation. You have now been given the key. You have been shown the code that connects the wisdom of the ancients to the wealth of the modern masters. The path of struggle, anxiety, and frustration is behind you. Before you lies the path of alignment, peace, and purpose. It is a path governed not by fear but by faith, not by speculation but by stewardship. You now understand that you have never been a victim of circumstance but a powerful creator who simply had the wrong blueprint. Today you have received the true map. The journey from here is not one of seeking wealth out there, but of cultivating it from within. Let this new understanding settle deep into your soul. Let it become the new foundation of your reality, and let it guide every thought you think and every action you take from this day forward. The search is over. The struggle is done. The true work now begins. Remember this sacred law. Let it echo in your heart and mind as the final ultimate truth of your new existence. Wealth is not hunted, it is cultivated.